Hi guys, hope you're all okay. Just wanted to jump on quickly before we got onto the tier list and say thank you for 25 subs. It might be 26 when I've made this video. It might be more. And you look back if you're watching this after I've dropped the video. But we'll see. I just want to say thank you for the likes, the comments, the subscriptions. You can unsubscribe at any time if you are not happy with the content. But thank you so much for all the support. I'm definitely not where I thought I would be a month in. I thought I'd be probably at 10. So it fills me with a lot of joy that people want to see me do this on this platform and not just be on TikTok and Instagram. And obviously it's separate, and I'm going to make a separate Nerves channel, I think, to promote my music on. But we're here. Let's get down to it. Doctor Who tier list part 2. And the first one is doing quite well, a lot better than I thought it would initially, and I can only thank you guys for it, and thank you for being so supportive. And even if you don't, I've had a lot of people who say they're not fans of Doctor Who, but they enjoyed me. You know, obviously I'm very passionate about it because I've been a fan since I was young, so they enjoy me. You know, you enjoy seeing me talk passionately about stuff I love, and that makes me feel really happy that people think that I have a right to talk about what I want to talk about, and they enjoy watching me on screen. So thank you is what I really wanted to say. And we'll just get straight into it, cut the waffle out. So tier list so far: Ruth Jo Martin's Doctor is coming at F. Peter Davison and Colin Baker are at E, followed by John Hurt, who is leading the E category. Been listening to a lot more Big Finish of Colin Baker and Peter Davison. Very happy with my pick that Colin Baker's just a little bit better. But I do think that Peter Davison had better episodes. One thing I will say, I think this probably will change. When I put the video out, and as I'm making it right now, I still don't know who I'm going to put as S tier. I still don't know who my favourite one is. Because I've watching everything back, my mind is just, I don't know what I'm going to do. So right now, as I'm making this, I don't know who's an S tier. I really don't know. Really don't know. And that could change in the future, and I'm probably going to make this video 2 years later because we can really see where Shooty is. Well, 3 years later. As soon as Shooty's done, we'll have to make it again. And I do think, you know, this changes over time, guys. If I'm not, you know, when I was younger, Matt Smith would have been number 1. He's not number 1. And when I was really young, David Tennant probably would have been number 1, but he's not number 1. So it changes over time, and I'm sure in 3 years' time, how old will I be? I'll be about to turn 24. Well, next year I'll be 24. Wow, okay. Okay. Gonna be 21 in August, so yeah, that's not great. Anyway, enough about my age. We'll talk about someone who's very, very old, and that is the first female Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, is in D. I think people are going to think this is really controversial, but I think she's quite good. I don't think she's as bad as everyone makes out. And I think, to be honest, there's a lot of stigma about it. And I don't think she deserves to be at the bottom or chucked away and disregarded because she's a woman or because you don't like the writing. Because an actor can only be as good as the writer. And I do believe that because you have some amazing actors being awful films. I mean, I watched Thor 4 when it came out and I thought it was awful. I like Chris Hemsworth. I just felt a bit let down by everyone else. I mean, Christian Bale is an amazing actor. We see it in Batman. What was going on in Thor 4? He's the best part about the film for me. But if you want me to review the Marvel films, I would definitely do that. But it's going to be a long video. And we'll have to do the different phases in one video, I think. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's start at the very start. Regeneration into... her regenerating into Capaldi. Well, actually, let's go back to when it was announced at Wimbledon. Now, I wasn't watching the show. I'd given up because Matt Smith had regenerated into Peter Capaldi, an old man. And I didn't know when I was younger about Classic Who. And I didn't know the Doctor was really, really old because I guess I just didn't take it in. But I was really upset and I gave up with the show. And when I found out that the Doctor was a girl, you know, I had hope from Capaldi because I didn't like Capaldi. He was everything that I hated. The Doctor's become an old man again. I can't relate to it because as a kid, I used to pretend to be Matt Smith. I used to, like, pretend to be the Doctor. I think every kid who likes Doctor Who did. and he turned to an old man. I couldn't relate to it, because I think Matt Smith had that quality where he was like a young kid in an old man's body, but also like there was times where Matt Smith was also, you know, an old man in a young man's body. Definitely. Probably a bit more, actually. But anyway, I think Jodie is a mixture of 10 and 11, and she can't decide which one she wants to be. And she struggles through season 1 to find out who she is. And I don't think she establishes herself to the very end. At least not for me. And God, the writing, when it's bad, it's bad. And Chibnall will be marked down for that, not Jodie, but you can only go off her series. You know, you can only go off what we can watch, and that's what we had to watch. I didn't mind the first season that she did. Like, it was okay. First series 11. I didn't hate it. They took out all the classic villains: Sontarans, Cybermen, Daleks, Slitheen, Weeping Angels. Took it all. Silurians, Sea Devils. Took it all out. Jadoon. Took it all out. And they made it very casual. If you didn't watch Doctor Who before, then you could watch Doctor Who. Is how I felt. And I felt when I watched it for the first time, I was like, I don't even know if I watched Doctor Who. Which isn't great. I don't like that. I felt it really lost, you know, as a season, it was okay. I'd probably give it like a 6 out of 10. Like, it's acceptable. But as for Doctor Who, it didn't really feel like Doctor Who at times. It was a bit weird. But it was enjoyable at some parts. Like, I like some parts. Rosa, amazing episode. Really good. Really enjoyed it. But the Witch Hunt one? No. The end with Tim Shaw? No. Don't really like her companions, to be honest. I don't like Ryan. I like Yaz. Mandip Gill is a very good actress. I don't like Bradley Walsh in the TARDIS, and that might be a bit controversial, but I think that John Bishop was way better as Dan, and I think John Bishop actually works better with Yaz and the Doctor as a TARDIS team, or as a fam, which I know some people hate the word and hate when Jodie say it because it's cringy, but the Doctor's always been cringy. If you watch Doctor Who, you know the Doctor's been cringy. Timey-wimey, Alonzi, Geronimo, like, these are words that the Doctor has said, and you didn't find that cringy? I mean, there were some awesome moments when he said it, but it was cringy. So get a little bit real. I also feel quite passionately because I was a hater at the start, and I think that she really made me think about how I view myself, because the fact that I didn't want to watch Doctor Who because there was a woman being Doctor Who, I think looking back it's just pathetic, and I'm a bit not disappointed in myself because I was quite young. I was still 15. I was still trying to work out who I was as a person, but the fact that because a lady's doing it and I can't relate to it, you still can relate to it. It's just that a lady's doing it. I mean, look at the Master. I did not feel that way when I knew the Master was Missy. I just thought, oh, that's cool. And I do think that Moffat hinted that eventually the Doctor would be a lady, because she made the Master a lady first. And I think it was his way of sort of being like, we're going to do it with the Master and see if they're okay with it, and then we'll do it with the Doctor if they're not okay with it. And a lot of the fan base weren't okay with it, but a lot of them were. And to the guys and girls that didn't have a problem with it straight away, I really respect that, and I think that that's pretty amazing. But anyway, we'll get into it. Season 2, solid, better. I did enjoy it. Classic villains coming back for some of it, which was nice. Lone Cyberman, really like that. Timeless Children, no. Should have been the Master. But again, that's down to Chibnall, that's not Jodie. And I think a lot of people will put Jodie down because of the writing, and I understand that, but as a Doctor, she was good. You know, you can't say you don't like her because she is 10 and 11 merged together in this weird sort of way with her own little twist on it, which I don't think is unique enough to be 13. Like, she's 10 and 11 and she struggles to assert herself as the Doctor in the first season, especially. Second season, she's the Doctor. I think it takes about 4 episodes in the first season to be like, okay, we're with the Doctor now. I mean, Orphan 55, probably the worst episode of Doctor Who ever, And that's not just due to the writing. I just think it's really, really poor from everyone involved. And just, yeah, if I need to laugh and I've had a really hard day, I will put Orphan 55 on. I'll put Love and Monsters on. And sometimes I'll put Fear Her on. And I hate Fear Her because I can just laugh at it because it's so poor. And let's not act like Doctor Who hasn't got bad episodes. I've just named 3. You know, there's some episodes that I don't like that some people really love, and I understand that, but I've just named the most 3, like the 3 weakest, definitely. 100% they are the weakest Doctor Who episodes. So, Flux. What did I think of Flux? What did I think of Jodie in Flux? Flux was good. But I felt a bit, I don't know, I felt it was a bit dislodged. I feel like there was a lot, like Vinder. Why is he even here? You know, I really like Roddy Ritchie. Really, really like him. And I loved him in Game of Thrones as Grey Worm. Took me a minute then. And I like the fact that he was going to be in Doctor Who. I mean, when I saw the trailer for Flux, I was like, oh my God, Roddy Ritchie's going to be in Doctor Who. I know that's not his real name, but that's how I know him because of his music. So yeah, it just felt a bit disjointed. I feel like there was no major threat in Flux. I was a bit confused who the antagonists were. I still don't really know. I know the one's called Swarm. I don't know who the lady is. And I probably should watch it back, but I don't really want to. Big Finish is way better than Season 11, Season 12 and Flux. We'll just say that. Much rather listen to that. I'm having a lot of fun with Big Finish at the moment. And I've just got into Colin Baker and I've said I'm enjoying it. And I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it. Like, I feel very, you know, I thought it was just because of Paul McGann at the start, but it's not. I just love listening to Doctor Who stories. It's really, really fun. So if you haven't done it, check it out. I'll put links in the description. There's loads of playlists on Spotify that people have made with all of the episodes in as well. And also, like, you can go onto YouTube and listen to the ones that you have to pay for, so that's really good too. I haven't done that yet because I wanted to finish the arc that Paul McGann was on in his first run on Big Finish. Really, really good. Anyway, back to Jodie. Yeah, Flux was okay. I just feel like it didn't tie anything up, and especially after a cliffhanger like Timeless Children, which I will say, and I have stated in the first video, should have been the Master. It would have made so much more sense. And I'll go into that another day, but that'll be a separate video. You didn't tie anything up. There's one thing about his era, that the Chibnall and Jodie era, you didn't tie anything up. I felt like there was no major threats or no major implications to episodes. Like, I didn't feel at any time, you know, even when the Doctor turned into a weeping angel, I was like, well, she's not going to be like that for the rest of time, is she? No. Because the show has to go on. And I know that's because we're not in the show, but even, you know, the Pandorica Opens felt like, oh wow, something's really happening here to Matt. Like, something's really happening to 11. What's going to happen? I know that was the big send-off, but when she got turned to a weeping angel, I was like, oh, okay. I also don't like the use of the weeping angels. Don't like it. They should have just been a one-off villain. I like Time of Angels and I like Flesh and Stone. However, I still think they should have just stayed at Blink and then they were done, because they'd be the scariest villains of all time. And they also changed the powers and changed, you know, the canon of the angels, which I disagree with. Angels in Manhattan I don't like. So there's a lot really. And I think Jodie just got the poison chalice, and she just had to carry the show in the worst, not the worst time period, because it still got a lot of views from fans, because avid fans will watch anything, even if it's bad. I'm an Arsenal fan. I've watched so many years recently of mediocrity and bad football, but I remember when we finished 4th every season under Wenger with minimal players and minimal funds spent, and now look at us, we're top of the league with Mikel. And, you know, personally, as a fan of a lot of different types of shows, genres, and like corporations, I guess, with like Marvel and DC and Doctor Who and Arsenal, I guess, UFC, you know, if something's going through a rough patch, I'm still going to watch it because it gave me the love I have for that show. So yeah, I'm noticing the time. I've spent a lot on Jodie. Final thing I want to say, Power of the Doctor was really good. It felt very fan-servicey, but it was a really nice send-off to Jodie's character. Was really happy with it overall. I will say the addition of Sacha Dhawan's Master was amazing, and really, you know, when the Master was introduced at Spyfall, I mean, it really took my breath away, and I was like, do you know what? I really like him. And I know that's separate to Jodie, but Jodie really works well with Sasha. And that's the one thing that I think, not saying that Tennant and John Sim didn't have a great connection, because they did, and John Sim is a good actor, and I like John Sim, but I prefer Sacha Dhawan as the Master. He is a bad guy. So, yeah, I think she gels well with most of the villains. She's got good chemistry with most of the fam. Didn't like the first one with Bradley Walsh and Ryan. I don't know what the actor's name, I'm really sorry. But I think she works amazingly with Yaz. I think we were deprived that scene and that final kiss with Yaz on the top of the TARDIS. And that makes me really angry at Chibnall, to be honest. Sorry about that, my phone's a bit low. It makes me really angry. And I think if this was a box ticking exercise, it would have, I really do feel like a lot of people say, oh, she's a girl because it's a box ticking. She's not. The Doctor's a lady now because that had to happen at some point. She's been given an infinite amount of lives now because of the Time Lords. Even before the Timeless Children. The probability of her becoming a man every time is just unrealistic. I think Jodie works really well with Jo Martin, like I've said. I do think Jo Martin has a bit more of presence, and she solidifies herself as the Doctor a lot easier than Jodie did. But I think maybe that's because of her stature and her, how powerful she seems, while 13 is kind of just trying to figure everything out because she's just regenerated, and also she has no idea who Jo Martin's Doctor is yet. So yeah, that's Jodie. She's D, and I hope that you guys respect that and don't hate on me for it. But if you do, I will fight you in the comments because that's what I believe. So watch her seasons. They're not as bad as everyone says. And this stigma that she is the worst is definitely untrue. I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong with anything on this list, but I know that I'm 100% right when I say that she is definitely not the worst. If you watch all of her seasons, she's not the worst. Definitely not the worst. She might be second worst, or third worst, or fourth worst, or fifth worst. And maybe she's at the bottom of the D tier. But she's not the worst. So yeah, there's Jodie. We're back again. Sorry for the delay, guys. Obviously, you won't know that there was a delay, but I've been sorting out my computer for about 2 hours now. I've been on phone to Apple for at least half an hour trying to sort it out. It is all sorted now, so hopefully we've got no distractions again. It's probably like 7 o'clock now. The England game's on, so I'm going to go down and watch that in a minute. However, just thought we would get into the next Doctor. Obviously, we just covered Jodie. The next Doctor on the list is Jon Pertwee. Now, a lot of people might not agree with this, and I think people that think that Jon Pertwee is their favourite Doctor or watched Jon Pertwee growing up, it's very common that Jon Pertwee is their favourite Doctor. A lot of people who grew up with him will say that he is one of the best, and I agree that he is really good. However, just for me, it just doesn't really work, and here are the reasons why. It feels like I'm watching a show in the 60s when I see him on screen. Don't get me wrong, I love the charismatic nature of this incarnation. I like how he's funny. I like the companions. I would say he's probably the Doctor I've watched the least out of and listened to the least out of, because I have probably listened to a lot more 5th Doctor stories and 6th Doctor stories on Big Finish now, especially, which takes them up, or, before that it would be that Davidson would be my least watched Doctor. But in general, I think he did a really good job of taking over from a Doctor that was loved like Patrick Troughton, and obviously William Hartnell was only 2 Doctors ago, so we are very much clearly at the start. But for me, I remember watching it as a kid, and I remember watching the 4 Doctors, and it was great. It was really good. My only gripes now as an adult would be like, I feel like it was very fan servicey and a bit of a hot mess. I feel like they chucked everything in, and it worked, and it was really cool seeing the Doctors all interact with each other. However, I just, it's not my favourite episode of all time. I do like multi-Doctor stories. However, I have, favourites over, I think the newer ones are better than the older ones, personally. But I do like the 2 Doctors. 2 Doctors is a great story. But we'll get on to Troughton a little bit later, and we obviously covered Colin Baker. I think he feels like Adam West from Batman, like the original Batman. I really think it's a bit campy, but a bit too campy for Doctor Who. Like, don't get me wrong, it should be cringy and a little, you know, pushing the boundary of funny, and but also a bit weird because it's Doctor Who. It's supposed to be weird, but there's just times that I'm like, what am I really watching? And I just, for me, it's probably just doesn't work for me a little bit. Growing up from the era that I grew up on, I think I'm just so used to Doctor Who being very, very similar throughout all the different Doctors that I've encountered. So it is a really different spin on Doctor Who. I don't think it's too vastly different, but it's just the act of the Doctor knowing Aikido and just like throwing people around. I'm not used to that, so to me that was alien. Like, he threw, I don't know what villain it was, but I just watched the Doctor just chuck someone around, and I was like, it's cool, but it probably shouldn't happen. And for me, it's definitely a thing that the Doctor doesn't like violence, and he has a sonic screwdriver. He doesn't have like a laser screwdriver or a laser, I don't know what it's called, that the Master has, but he doesn't have technology that's going to hurt anyone. He's just got the Sonic to help him, and obviously the TARDIS. And yeah, that's really my only gripe with Jon Pertwee. But again, like, the thing of him being stranded on Earth, I think it really does limit the capabilities of, you know, what's going on. I did like when he regenerates into Tom Baker, that episode. I think it's Spiders in the UK. I want to say Arachnids in the UK, but I think that's the Jodie episode. But I will put the actual episode name up there because it's just escaped my mind, and I'm really sorry about that. It's just a lot to think about when you're sort of ad-libbing over your favourite Doctors. But I'll put it there. I think it's Spiders in the UK or something like that. But anyway, I thought that was really cool. I do like Jon Pertwee, and obviously it introduced the character of the Master. It introduced Roger Delgado's Master, which is, you know, resoundingly probably the best out of all of them. Let me know if you'd want a Master list. I'd only do it if people ask for it, but I probably won't do that. But yeah, so I put him there. I think that he is very limited for what he can do. I don't like that he is stranded for all of the season. I wish it was like half, and like the Doctor found a way to convince the Time Lords to get everything back before he becomes Tom Baker, and that would make me a little bit happier. But apart from that, no major gripes. But he's a solid Doctor, and we'll go on to the next. I'm sorry that this one's really, really short. I just haven't watched enough. Right, we're back. It is the morning after I did the first two Doctors, but I've got some free time now, so I may as well do it before I go to work. So, capping off the end of this video, we have one of the grumpiest Doctors, Peter Capaldi. I'm joking. It's not. I got you. I definitely got people who actually believe me for a second. William Hartnell, the first Doctor. Now, I find this a bit difficult because I've got to, I don't know, do you take in David Bradley's iteration of the character at the same time that you take in William Hartnell? I don't know. I think you may as well. So we'll be doing that. But I think David Bradley plays a really good first Doctor, so we'll just put that out there as well. So anything really that David Bradley has done relative to Doctor Who, I will probably count in this as well, because I do think he does, like, he plays William Hartnell playing the Doctor very, very well. And he also plays the first Doctor very, very well. So, yeah, I think maybe there's a bit of nostalgia because he's the first one. And without him, would Doctor Who be where it is today? Probably not. And without, like, Tom Baker, would it be where it is today? Probably not. Without Tennant and Matt Smith, would it be where it is today? Probably not. But I think Hartnell is the first, like, proper timestamp that you can be like, oh well, this was really something. He was the original. Obviously he started very, very grumpy, and he gets better as the seasons goes on because he obviously didn't really want to do the show. Had to be convinced. If you watch Adventures in Space and Time, I think it's called. It's basically documenting how Doctor Who came to be and how they pitched it to, William Hartnell, but he's played by David Bradley. You'll see that he was clearly not, he didn't want to do it straight away. They really had to convince him at the BBC. And I think that really shows with his performance in the first couple episodes. I think also it was really brand new, and it was a bit, you know, a bit different to what we know Doctor Who has today. But yeah, when you watch the episodes, I do think they are very nostalgic, because you do think, oh wow, like this is the first Doctor, and it started everything. Obviously, Timeless Children's changed that, and you know, it's fine, but that's the first thing that I think of. Like, whenever I think of him, I think, well, you know, without him, this whole thing wouldn't have happened. So I think there's probably like a bias, because you're grateful that he did the show, because the show went on to be what it is now. I do think he's quite grumpy. I do know that, you know, it does get better as the episodes get on. And I think he gets more comfortable with the cast members and the staff at the BBC. When you can kind of see it in his performance that he is finding it a lot easier, definitely, that he was at the start. Like, he was finding it a bit difficult at the start, but he definitely finds it easier. And just, you know, the way that he touches his costume and holds like his collars, I mean, it's just really nostalgic. But again, like Jon Pertwee, I haven't watched loads of William Hartnell, I will admit that. The first time that I ever saw the first Doctor was David Bradley, because I watched it on Twice Upon a Time, and then I've gone back and obviously watched all the some of the Classic Who episodes that he did, just to say that I can review it at least. But I think he's very inoffensive. I think he's the first one, so there's a bit of bias in everyone thinking that he is probably one of the best, but personally, I think I put him here. And yeah, those are kind of my reasons why. I know for Pertwee and Hartnell, they've been quite limited compared to Jodie, but I've actually done like a proper deep analysis, because I've watched all of Jodie's run, and you know, I feel quite strongly about what I've said about Jodie. But that is pretty much the end of the video. It's a bit of a longer one than the other episode, but I hope you guys appreciate it. Also, one of my shorts is doing really, really well right now. I think it's up to 500 views, but we'll check after this video and we'll see what's going on. But I just want to say thank you again, and if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Hopefully this video goes out Sunday, which would be really, really cool. And yeah, so just a debrief. Jodie, 13. Number 3, Jon Pertwee. Number 1, William Hartnell. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon.